from the jump. I'm not going to coach or do anything every day. I started off as semi-absentee. I'm still an owner-operator with a semi-absentee mindset. I hired a director right now. She's running stuff day to day so you and I can talk. I'm not out coaching, but we've had 3 to 4 locations running this morning like normal. And I'm not out coaching. We're talking. Breakfast with my wife this morning. And everything ran smooth. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Because we built a business along the way. And so hired her part-time. And I told her from the jump, you will be my director from the beginning. Like, you will be my director and we will grow this. I'm hiring you as a quote unquote head coach. We call them head coaches, but eventually the director runs the day-to-day ops. Because in the beginning, you have no accounts. Let's do our intro training together. I, as the owner, get trained. You get trained. So I can go teach classes in the beginning because I need to know what it's like. Not forever. I need to know what it's like. So we know what type of coaches we need to hire. We need to know what the type of models are out there. All those different things. I can know the ins and outs of what it means to coach, ins and outs of the business. We opened up in January 2023. We have no accounts. We were hitting at least 4 and 5 schools a day. And the whole thing was every single day we would hit 4 or 5 schools together. So we learned the sales and we learned together what was working, what wasn't working. We did that until we filled up Brandy's schedule to where she was teaching at a school every single day.
Nice.
Once she was teaching at a school every single day, we went and hired another coach.
Yo, this is the Streetwise podcast, where we help you level up your game, level up your leadership, and level up your life. I'm your host, Matthew McReynolds. I'm a multi-brand franchisee, and I'm a franchise consultant, which means I help people find, launch, and build their ideal franchise business. My main goal is to help you get off of zero and become the person that your dreams need you to be. Buckle up, get your popcorn ready, let's go. We're gonna go, man. We're just gonna go. Well, Streetwise Nation, right now we got Calvin Parsons with us today. Mr. Calvin, how you doing, my brother?
I can't complain, Matt. Can't complain. You know, it's Good Friday, which I appreciate. You know, having me on a Good Friday. I know a lot of folks like to take this day and reflect, but it's definitely a good day. You know, in the words of the great poet Ice Cube.
There we go. Yeah, you know what? It is a good day. It is a good day. It is Good Friday, and I feel like this is kicking back a little bit. I feel like we are gonna do some reflection. I mean, we're gonna go deep, man. This is your show, so tell the people, where did we meet? How did our paths cross? It wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, not too long ago in the Big Easy, we met at the Franchise at your first Franchise conference,
That's right.
right? And my first
Yeah.
Franchise conference. Different perspectives, different ends. I was more so coming in with the franchisor, doing the 2-minute pitch
Yep.
to you all to kind of explain the franchise that I'm with, Kidokinetics. And so we met there and connected and yeah, that's how we met a couple months back and stuff. And so we've been talking off and on, and I'm glad to be on with you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. As soon as I heard your story and I saw you representing the brand and representing yourself, I knew that, you're somebody I wanted to link up with. How did you get connected with Kidokinetics? Tell me a little bit about your backstory into becoming a franchisee of that system.
Yeah, so I still have my current day job, and so been working. As you see, all the military stuff in the background. So I'm a
Yeah.
vet, and got out the Marine Corps about 2013. Been working in healthcare. My wife's an educator; she's an assistant principal, and so been working in corporate America really since 2013 timeframe, and then COVID happens. I've been doing a lot of different jobs, operations wise, and then ultimately, people are like, "Oh, you should be leading this, or you should be doing that." And then you just have these itches, right? About like, hey, I should, right? Somebody's like, you should be the CEO, or you should be the senior vice president. And then one day it was just like, you know what? A lot of people getting laid off. There's a lot of different things happening. I want to build something for my kids. I have this ownership itch. I want to be a business owner, and I think things and like to experiment and be a community builder, like I talked about. And so one of your counterparts that you had on recently, Melissa, one of my big
Yeah.
fans, she was my
Shout out,
constructor.
Melissa Lewis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Melissa Lewis. And so everything happens in life, right? So I get reached out on LinkedIn by a person, and then I get connected with Melissa. And then we just go down the path. of everything that you kind of coaching through and talking through in the process. And so there were several different things. Even actually looked at Mosquito Joe. Um,
Okay.
and so it just didn't work out in my area where I live at, which is Richmond, Virginia. They actually were expanding and growing that person that bought up more territory. But I was very interested. And then, boom, my passion, which is Kidokinetics. I got 3 boys myself, and I landed at it. And everything that you kind of talk about, right? Like the other day in your post about the leadership team, and if you don't vibe with it and you don't feel like you want to partner with them, because this is a partnership, run, right? So like all these
Yeah,
different
get up
things,
out of
these
there.
nuggets that you're dropping, right? As a person who is and currently a franchisee yourself and stuff, and that you're dropping along the way. It's like, yep, because I've gone through the process myself, and so that's how I landed with Kidokinetics, and just wanting to own something and show my kids, right? That something I had never had or seen, and and it's not a lot of people of color that I'm coming from that like own stuff, like
Right.
actually like own this, and
100%.
they're the owner that shows up, and so it's like I want to be that person, so jumped in. Why not?
That's awesome, man. So when you were looking at different concepts, you mentioned that you were looking at Mosquito Joe was one of them, but just based on territory availability, it didn't work out. And you found Kidokinetics. Were there any other concepts that you were looking at as well that were interesting to you? Like what was it that helped you eventually land on Kidokinetics outside of, I mean, maybe not outside of passion. Maybe the passion was the driving force that led you there. But I'm curious what other things you were kind of interested in before you made the decision to go with Kidokinetics.
Well, we definitely looked at fit, right? And so, um, looking at the kind of fit and passion, my wife being an educator, we had looked at tutor doctor because she's an
Okay.
educator. And so that
Sure.
children's space, you always kind of look at like what's recession proof, you know,
Yeah.
what things are, me as a business person, right? Because I also have, some of my other education is I have an MBA. And so like I think about, right, like, and when I graduated, even though I went to the military, I graduated in 2006, and I like leave Afghanistan, like, and I'm in Afghanistan in like 08, 09. So like I'm seeing my friends and family graduate, and I see what's going on with the market and stuff. Right. So like I think about those type of things. So it's like what can actually last. And so we talked about some home type services things. That's where the Skill Joe piece came in, right? And
Yep.
like we looked at British swim schools and the children's services, which is kind of close. We actually looked at that first, went pretty far with them. They were close to us because they're in Virginia Beach. We're in Richmond, Virginia. That was really close, kind of made sense. But then as you do your discovery, it wasn't necessarily leadership, but like as you do your discovery day and like talking with the different franchisees, it didn't have that fit for me. Right. And their model and like those type things, it just wasn't for me. And so ultimately it landed at passion, but it started off very logical. It started
Got
off
you.
very logical because I looked at what was going to be sustainable, what was going to be long term. I could always begin with the end in mind, right? So like
Yeah.
try to begin in mind with what you can grow. I'm building a business, right? So you look at the EOS, you look at, all those different books that are out there, right? I'm building a business. I'm not going to be out there every day. I don't coach every day with Kiddo Connects. I help my coaches. I go out there so I can always stay grounded, touch. I know what my coaches are dealing with. I know what I can control my costs better when I know what is being efficient, what's working well, what's not working well. I always want to keep my pulse, so I go out and I actually live that life, day in life of a coach type thing to keep always relevant and not lose that sight, lose that vision, and kind of always uh, be up to date on what's going on. But I don't coach every day because I can't go be a community builder to build the business for the 3 to 4 to 5 to 10 year time frame. And
Right.
so um, I say all that to bring it back. It was very logical, but then quickly turned into passion because um, of the ups and downs. So you got to have the passion and the drive to continue to build the business when you're down in the dumps, right? Because otherwise you
Man,
will be hard.
amen. Amen. And I just had a conversation recently with another franchise consultant, Drew Carpenito, and we did a podcast episode a few weeks back. And something that we both talked about on that one was the importance of you got to pull something from the business, because when you get punched in the face or kicked in the gut within operating and running a business on the day to day, it's going to be a gut check. You're going to want to quit. What are you pulling from the business energy wise that keeps you willing and wanting to wake up and go into it every day? And it's cool, man. It's exciting to hear a guy like you talk about. I mean, you got a job, outside of the business, but the importance of working as a coach, not all the time, but sometimes, so you can keep aligned with the pulse of the business, I think is really cool. And it sparks some curiosity. So I'm interested in how, when you first started, how did you start building up the team? But maybe before we get into that, maybe explain to us what Kidokinetics is. Explain to us what it is, what the business does, and then when you got started, how you were able to scale your way into the business and then kind of work yourself to where you are now.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate. I work a
Okay.
remote job, and it gives me flexibility. So with that remote
Nice.
job, I work on different kind of like my remote business. Like my job is like on the West Coast, and uh, they start a little bit later in the day, and so I was able to kind of
Okay.
take advantage of that time frame where I'm working, doing certain things, and so I could be places to kind of like prospect in the morning and do those type things and kind of build the business and learn, and then get to work, and then work on the business late at night, right? So that was that, and I work from home remotely, so that allows me not to be in an office. I could kind of check in, check out where I need to be and kind of be on the move and do those things. So that's that. But Kidokinetics, what is Kidokinetics? Kidokinetics, the name is long and people are like, what in the world, kiddo? What?
Get a
Let's
what?
break it down. Kiddo, kids, right? Kinetics. If everybody remembers from physics class or chemistry, kinetics is movement. Kids
Okay.
movement. So kiddo movement, kid movement. And unfortunately, it's not as clear, right? Fortunately and unfortunately, right? Because most people understand it, they love it, makes a ton of sense. But in the beginning, they're like, this doesn't make sense. We're multi-sport programming to get kids moving ages 1 to 10, and we introduce them to sports through PE programs. So we have basketball, we have football, we have soccer, and people are like, well, what about soccer shots or soccer stars, right? Or
Mm.
this. Guess what? You can have that there in your school. We will teach everything else because they focus on other things. So we don't see them necessarily as competitors. We
You're a little more flexible. You can kind of move around and adjust based on the needs of the school or the community or the partnership that you're developing.
correct. And
Got it.
so they don't even see us competitors, right? Like we focus on different things, and we're working very much on movement, cross body movement, left hand, right hand. Why? Because for most people, everybody's wiring is a little bit different, but for most people, if you use your right hand, you're working the left side of your brain. If you use your left hand, you're working the right side of your brain. So you want children using both hands. That's why I say develop both sides. As an older athlete, develop both sides because you can go both ways. But
Right.
really, as a young athlete, you want to develop both sides because you're working both sides of your brain. And a stronger brain makes you a
Interesting.
stronger learner, right?
Yeah.
When you put a child on the ground, you put a child on the ground so they can learn the world. And all of a sudden, as they get older, we're like, sit down, be still, and like learn. But
Wow.
why we have them like learn on the ground, like moving around? And then all of a sudden we get into academic setting, it's like be still. Now that academic setting, there's a whole book about it. And there, so everything about Kidokinetics is scientifically based. We work with pediatricians over the years, and our founder Terry has spent many, many, many years working with folks like Carla Hannaford, who spent years and years and years of studying and writing down and documenting uh, this the growth of this program and learning it, right? And like the development of it, and it's how it's scientifically based, but like there's a certain learning profile that our academic setting suits for. And that's for everybody who is like perfectly dominant in that, let's say, right-handed, right eye, right brain, right foot. That is our academic setting today. If you are right eye dominant, right ear dominant, right brain dominant, right hand dominant, right foot dominant, you will succeed in our today's academic setting. Now every child is like that.
Wow.
So if I am left eye dominant, you see this way to here, right? So if you sit me on this side of the classroom now, right? If you sit me over on this side of the classroom and I got to see over here to see the board, you just now made my weak eye the eye because you see across.
What's going on, everybody? I hope you're liking the conversation this far. Please take a moment, give it a 5-star review. It really helps spread this out to as many people as possible. All right, let's get back to the episode. Wow, and stacking those little bricks up consistently over the course of, this is their life. And these kids go
Yeah.
to school, they do sit there all day. I mean, that explains a lot why a lot of kids struggle in the space. And it might be more than just, them. And so many kids get prescribed medicine these days when it might not even be the solve in the first place.
So I could tell a kid purple, red, yellow, orange, blue, and they might recite it back to me. Or I could put hoops down that are purple, yellow, red, orange, blue, have them jump through those hoops and say those colors, and they will learn them faster and remember them better by moving through those hoops. It's scientifically proven that they will do better learning it that way through movement.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so off top, I like him and fully invested in this type of a concept. It's super passionate for what it's one of my super passions. I came up as an athlete, as a coach, and I mean, even to take it back as a student, I was one of those students that had a hard time sitting in class all day. And so this type of thing is just super interesting to me. I could dive deeper into the science behind it, and I'll do that. I'll do that after the fact, man. This is really cool. Do you feel?
So like that's where that passion came in. So
Yeah. Oh man, I'm all about that.
it started very logical, and then when you meet the founders, to tie it all the way back to like all your nuggets
Yeah.
that you give week over week, when you go in, because like it was tutor doctor, and it's like, okay, yeah, tutoring makes sense. A lot of kids got tutoring, blah blah blah, and then like, swim, bridge, swim. Oh, every kid needs to swim. Very logical, makes sense. But like and then like, oh wait a minute, hold up, I got 3 kids. My wife's an educator, and like, oh wait a minute, I grew up in sports, and oh wait a minute, hold on, our oldest, he's actually on the spectrum in sports. We didn't know this, but like sports has been huge with him, like in his social and emotional development and his ability to interact. And we didn't know why. We just like threw him in
Wow.
that. And like as we
Yeah.
start getting behind the science, so all of a sudden it was like when people go, hey, I can't go and sell. I don't sell anything. I'm just telling you my story. And when I'm telling you my story and I'm passionate about it, it looks like I'm selling you something. No, I'm just telling you my life story, and you see the joy from it coming out of me, and so therefore it just sells itself,
Love
right?
it.
So like that's where, like, if you have the passion, right, so you start logical, but if you have the passion, when things get hard and it doesn't make sense and you need to community build and you're like, I can think long term, I have nights where my head is going boom 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 because I have these ideas, and these ideas are coming out and boom 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 boom. So to go back to your question, right,
Yeah.
I'm a spaghetti brain person, but
Let's go. Me too.
I'll get back to your questions, right? To go back to your question of how do we build, right? So like that passion came in. How do we build? Part of starting this also was my wife being an educator. Like education has gotten harder and harder and harder, and like she's getting burnt out and different things. It was also an exit thing for her, and she was like wondering,
Okay.
how do I exit education if I want to one day? And so if she wanted to exit education one day, what's something that she could jump into? She's not really a big business person, but she could feel like she could get behind and get and do, and still feel like she was having the same impact in education. Kidokinetics. So jumping into this, we start January 2023, and you heard the story at Franchise. How we started off was like my wife. We have our 3rd child. That child's in the NICU for 40 days. My wife was in the hospital for 2 weeks before having that child with preeclampsia. We also had 2 other kids at home, who are now 8 and 4. Now 8 and 4, but at that time they were 7 and 3. And so like, and I'm working my regular job, and it's like, okay, and then I need to hire a director. So like, from the jump, I'm not going to coach or do anything every day, but I started off as semi-absentee, quote unquote semi-absentee. I'm still an owner operator, but with a semi-absentee mindset. I hired a director. She was going to be my director that runs the day-to-day ops. Right now, she's running stuff day to day, so you and I can talk. I'm not out coaching, but we've had We had 3 to 4 locations running this morning, and like normal. And I'm not out coaching. We're talking. And I
Yeah.
went to breakfast with my wife this morning, and
Love
everything
it.
ran smooth. That's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And so because we built a business along the way, and so hired her part time. And I told her from the jump, you will be my director from the beginning. Like, you will be my director, and we will grow this. I'm hiring you as a quote unquote head coach. We call them head coaches, but eventually the director runs the day-to-day ops. I'm hiring you part-time, and I just need you from 9 to 12. Because in the beginning, you have no accounts. So let's go down. Let's do our what we call KPT, Kiddo Pro Training. But let's do our intro training together. I, as the owner, get trained. You get trained. And so I can go teach classes in the beginning because I need to know what it's like. Not forever, but I need to know what it's like. So we know what type of coaches we need to hire. We need to know what the type of models are out there. All those different things. I can know the ins and outs of what it means to coach, ins and outs of the business. She goes down, same thing. We get trained together. We open up in January 2023. We have no accounts. And every
Yeah.
single day, we just go out and, like, mind you, like, part of my background in the Marine Corps, I was an intel officer. So
Okay.
I do a lot of understanding of your environment. I believe that's probably the biggest thing that you can do is understand your environment. So, and I also grew up in daycares. My mom ran daycares. So I knew the easiest thing to access was daycares because they have enrichment programs for children all over the place. However, they also, if it's easy to access, means it's easy to access for everybody. So that means every other thing can be in there. And if every other thing can be in there, there's saturation. Not
Sure.
necessarily a bad thing, but that means you need to have very, very, very wealthy parents who really want to spend a lot. And that's not everywhere. So we did that. We kind of scoured everywhere, and we just started hitting every place prospecting. We were hitting at least 4 and 5 schools a day. And the whole thing was every single day we would hit 4 or 5 schools together. So we learned the sales, and we learned together what was working, what wasn't working. And then we did that until we filled up Brandy's schedule to where she was teaching at a school every single day. Once she
Nice.
was teaching at a school every single day, we went and hired another coach because she's my director, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to coach every single day. And I have my main job, and I can't prospect every single day. I can help, but I also want to be thinking about the longer term. So it's almost like you fill it up to a certain level, add a person, and then you slide yourself over to your job. And we slide over to a job. So we filled up her schedule to where she was teaching and she couldn't be into two places at once. Go get somebody else. Because
Got it.
I always wanted her to be prospecting. It's like the ABCs of a championship, right? You ask Nick Saban, what's the ABCs of winning all those championships? Always be recruiting. Always be recruiting, baby. You better
Yeah.
have
Let's
5
go.
stars coming in. Better have 4
Yeah.
stars coming in. Always be recruiting. And so, but she was always prospecting at a certain level. She was working the daycares and getting to like bigger and bigger locations. I was starting to work the longer term things like, how do I get partnered with like a university? Because they have some, there's got to be nonprofits out here, right? Because parents have money, but their money is limited. Because when times get hard, they love the kids, but times is limited. Who really has the money and who really cares about the health of the future? It's insurance companies. How do I partner with an insurance company? How do I partner with a business, right? Like, how do I partner if I partner with a nonprofit, they go out and they get sponsors. So I support them who gets a sponsor, who does this, who does that. Like, how do I community build? How do I work with a nonprofit that does after school programs who has, say, a 21st century grant? So I might drop my rate a little bit,
Interesting.
right? I drop my rate a little bit, but now my hourly rate goes down, but my hours go up. So now my coaches are happy. They're not driving around, like you said about window time, right?
Yep.
I don't want to send my coach. I don't want to send my tech down to Waco, right? That's a lot of windshield time, right?
That's a lot of windshield time.
I'm
Yeah,
listening,
you
right?
listening. Yeah.
I don't want to go down to Waco, right? So the less time I have my coaches driving around, because we are a mobile business, the more time I can have them at a school, the deeper we can go, like the longer we could be there. I don't have to jack my price up. Just the longer I'm there, the more money I make.
Yo, thanks for listening this far. It's at this point in the episode that I want to talk about Streetwise franchising, teaching, training, building. Streetwise franchising. As a franchise consultant, it's my job, it's my absolute pleasure, and it's my mission to help aspiring entrepreneurs find, launch, and build their ideal business. I've been a franchise owner for almost a decade. I know what it means to struggle. I know what it means to build a team. If you're ready to get off of zero, if you're ready to build something for yourself, visit streetwisefranchising.com. Let's get the conversation started. Don't wait until tomorrow to build your future. It starts today. Streetwise franchising. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Let's get back to the episode. What's been one of the most unique or creative or maybe partnerships that you're proud of that you've been able to establish in building your business? Because you're talking about some things that I don't think a lot of franchise owners, when they get in, are thinking as creatively as you are within this process. And so I'm interested. I want to dive deep into that.
So we're on the cusp of all of them right now. Like we're in the words of the great Malcolm Gladwell, we are at the tipping point. I spent the first year, franchising is like ivy. I've been telling people. I'm starting to learn. It's like ivy. You plant it, and it's starting to like creep.
Yeah, 100%.
And then it leaps. Right? We're in that creeping to leaping phase right now.
Okay.
And so, and I say that in the sense of that Henrico Education Foundation is a nonprofit that supports one of our counties here in the area. And the 21st Century Grant is a federal grant that brings in money to support after-school programs and all these different things. Our hourly rate, like we literally cut it in half. We brought it down, right? But like they had 14 schools. And it took us like a year to get in with these folks because I had to like prove things elsewhere. But it took like a year to get in with them. But cutting it down in half, but then she's like, I guarantee you, they have 14 schools. She literally is like, I'll guarantee you 5 of them, one each day, and you will be there an hour and a half to 2 hours. And you will have no more than 15 kids per class with a teacher that will always be with them. And there'll be 45-minute sessions. So it was all controlled. So like,
wow.
Even though it doesn't sound great up front, when you start doing the number crunch, you're like, oh yeah. So when you go from your coach showing up and you go every single month to like having a almost $3,000 check.
Now you got consistency. Now you can grow. Now you're building that foundation. Now you can, I think of it as you hear the metaphor of
one person you talk to versus trying to chase down all these people.
Man.
I went and picked up the check yesterday. Hey, are y'all closed for Good Friday? Oh yeah, we'll have your check. I showed up. Hey, how you doing, Calvin? Picked up the check. Y'all have a good Easter.
I can't complain about that.
And here's the crazy thing. We got for spring. Hey, we said we would start off with 5. Here's 5 more schools. Remember, we told you we could do more. Y'all really can do more? Yeah, here's 2 more schools.
Love it.
Now we're at 7 of the 14 schools. We will get all 14 schools. It's on us to slowly build. And we've already got locked in for the summer. They've already told us they haven't even finished planning their summer. We already have summer. So like now we're getting quarters out of, it's like almost now we're able to forecast out further because we built this relationship. And I had this other nonprofit that I'm starting to work with. So there's another thing so like I hired a guy. People were like, oh, what should we do in marketing? I hired a guy and I was like, you know what? I want to connect with these folks. And I just trying to get connected in with some people. I'm like, oh, it's just been hard. So he got me connected with 3 different organizations. The Autism Society of Central Virginia. Like I said, my oldest is on the spectrum. We're part of that society. It's a near and dear thing for me. And I want to support kids on the spectrum. And it takes a little bit different thing. And so like, how do we do that? And I don't necessarily want to like charge my prices and all that stuff. So we get in with them and they're like, hey, look, our budget's already fixed. But if you do an in-kind trade with us, we will give you training, your coaches training. So now my coaches get training to help work with kids on the spectrum, which is actually really helping with classroom management for all kids.
No doubt.
And we get a booth at the end of the summer for the RVA duck race. If you look up the RVA duck race, it's literally one of the biggest festivals in Richmond, Virginia. So we get a booth that's now $1,000 booth. And in the middle of this festival that has about 8,000 to 9,000 people, we are now sitting in the middle of this festival with our table, and we get to host games and get our brand out there. I give it end time summer camp, and they want to work with us in the fall. And this is basically us doing in kind with the booth. Parents see us, and then the stuff in the fall will be paid type stuff. The parent
Man,
paid.
this is amazing. Why do you think so many people sleep on community engagement? Because you're talking about right now all the
They're trying to
beautiful,
make
wonderful
their money
things.
back ASAP.
Say
They're
that one more
trying to
time.
make their money back ASAP. This is not
There it
making
is.
$1 today. I am trying to make money that it's like investing. You can take your money, right, to invest, right? The reason why Warren Buffett is so rich is not because he is the greatest investor of all time. If you take out probably about 5 to 10 of his investments, he's not that great. Warren Buffett's greatness is he can consistently invest in solid companies for a long period of time. He never breaks. It never stops. He's invested. He became his wealth really wasn't until he was in his 70s. And now he's getting over. So my goal is, right, begin with the end in mind. Is at the end of the 10-year mark, right? Now I don't want to be broke. I can't I don't want to be broke where I'm failing and I'm dying off. So I got to build a solid base, right? I did spend that first year hustling and building a solid base, which
Got
is
it.
getting out there, right?
Yep.
But I was also balancing with that of okay, really it's the 3 to 5 year mark, right? Because the IRS is saying you got 2 to 3 years to lose money and we're cool and otherwise, and be everything after 3 to 5. Okay, so fine. Lose your money, but do it right so that when you're at 3 to 5 year mark, you're exponentially out there. And at the end of the day, at the 10-year mark, which is where you have your real decision, begin with the end in mind. I have a 10-year window. I either re-up because I'm balling so much that I've bought more territories, either elsewhere with another franchise or within the network.
Yep.
And I'm balling so much that I just re-up the contract and we keep on balling and going.
Yep. Keep rolling.
Or I sell it to somebody else at exponentially more because I have such a healthy business. But you can't get there if you are so quick to nickel and dime today. There's you have to understand how your business is in buckets, right? The way the Kidokinetics business is buckets. It's enrichment, which is parent paid. It's PE, which is school paid, and it's summer camps or special camps, right? Which is also parent paid, but those are usually go through private schools or Parks, and that takes brand recognition. And like I said, Kidokinetics, once you get it and you understand, people know. But it's not necessarily the most brand recognized thing. We're not Coke. So I have to community build to brand recognize. Mosquito Joe, you have to community build to brand recognize.
100%.
So I'm investing in the brand recognition because I want people to understand when they think, the first thing they think in Richmond when it comes to kids and athletics is Kidokinetics. And when they do that, what happens is this. This is when you know you're successful when you're starting to get it. Literally, my director called yesterday, one of our daycares that we did something for last summer, and we did 5 to 6 events with him. It was a pretty solid customer. We did 5 to 6 events. She left a voicemail. They called back and then they said, we want to do the same thing last year, except weekly. So we went from being $1,100, $1,200 to now $3,500 with this customer. And I didn't sell a thing except for a phone call. I have people that call us now because we're community building. That takes work, takes engagement. Short, medium, long. You got to do it all. And that's why you have to work yourself out of a job. I work the long stuff. I worked along the medium, and I help put out fires, but I worked along the medium. My director works the medium to short, and all my team, I put trust in them. I hold them to a high standard. I am upfront with them. I compensate them for their time. They prospect. So your job is to show up, show out for those kids, speak, smile, Be courteous to the staff of the school. If you have any problems, don't argue. Just bring it back to me. Bring it to the director. We'll have those tough conversations. But you smile and you do this. You go out and you prospect. Well, I don't sell. I don't need you to sell. All I need you to do is smile. Make sure your clothes are clean when you come in with that Kidokinetics branded gear. You say, hey, how are you doing? My name is Calvin Parsons. I don't mean to interrupt your day, but I'm with Kidokinetics. This is our flyer. Kidokinetics, kids movement for ages 1 to 10. We see your lovely school. We would love to learn more about your school and how we can serve you all in the future. Thank you and have a great day. Oh, and by the way, can I have a business card? That's it. Get out of Dodge and go get dressed. Because we fanatical prospecting. If it's a book you haven't checked out, Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt. It talks about
Blunt.
Yeah, Jeb Blunt. Jeb Blunt. Blount. Jeb Blunt talks about it. People talk about cold calling, their fear of it, and all that stuff. It's because you're interrupting their day, and our fear of rejection. It goes back to like cave person time, caveman, cavewoman time, and being cast out. We hate rejection. But there's RBOs. It's reflexes, brush offs, and true objections. We very rarely get real objections. We get brush offs all the times and like reflexes. A lot of times when you go out and say, hey, I'm calling, can I give you this? No, I'm good. They really are good. It's just you interrupted their day. And so they just reflex, I'm good because you're selling me something. So if you acknowledge, hey, no worries. Hey, I know you're busy. Here you go. We'll give you a shout later on. And they're like, oh, shoot. You're not going to try to force sale on me? Nope. Because I'm going to circle back around on you. And eventually over time, when you get your brand awareness out there, and I've made a contact, you just give me your card back. And I promise you I'll do. And you feed them up this funnel. But you don't need everybody working the funnel, right? You feed them up the pyramid. And who's at the top of the pyramid? That's your customers that you already currently serve, and you just pick up the phone and boom. So when you're working with salespeople that have been in a territory for a very long time and they look like they're very lazy and they don't do nothing, they just sit back and they just doing this, they just wake up and they make a bunch of money. It's because they've been working the bottom of that pyramid for so doggone long. Time, once again, is half the battle. And so when people jump into franchising and they look left and they look right and they're like, why can't I get to the top 5? I want to be the top 5. Half of it is time. Half of it is your effort and know-how. But half of it is time. You just need time to let it cook and do the right things. Follow the playbook and do the right things, and then take time. And they're impatient and they don't want to do the work. I'm sorry, I've been preaching, man.
You're dropping bars right now, man. You're dropping bars. No, it's all good. I don't even want to. I don't think there's any value I can add at this point to this line of communication. That was good stuff. If you're listening to this right now, you don't got your notebook, or you're trying to build a business and you're hitting a hiccup, and listen to that one twice. Calvin, man, what have been some things that have been difficult for you on the journey? Where have you, fallen on your face and had to pivot and, overcome some things?
Self-doubt, patience. Okay. Everything I'm telling you to do, take time and do all that type of stuff. We talk about the gap in the game because we're all human. It is. Being in the gap and not recognizing it and calling myself out on it. That has been my biggest hurdle. Doggone it, we should have had it faster, or we should have had this. I raised my price on something. Why'd you do that? No, you had to test it. You had to try it, and it's okay. The fear of failure, right? That has been the hardest thing. Others is as tough as I can be. I'm a big teddy bear. There's been some people that I should have been cut, and I tried because I want to educate people, and I want to bring them along, and I see their potential, but they don't want to do the work. And so I try to give them chance after chance after chance. And I actually wasted time, energy, and effort.
Been there.
And I should have cut them earlier, right?
Yeah, been there.
That's probably been a failure, and I've learned and got a little bit tighter. We actually just had to let somebody go recently, and it was not necessarily. It was just like communication. It's like, hey, our team has always been big on communications, and that goes back to me because I used to play a game of life and death when I was in combat. Trust and doing what you're saying you're going to do, depending on life and death. So I'm very much, I treat people like adults. And when I say you're going to be there and you say you're going to be there, like I trust you're going to be there. And when you don't do that, I give you a couple times and stuff. And like, I know I'm dealing with like a younger group of folks, right? And I'm not saying that in a generational thing. I know I'm dealing with just like a younger group of people. So I try to give them opportunities to help them grow and learn.
Yeah.
I just was like, I got to remind myself, you're still running a business. And
Yeah.
so sometimes you got to be a little bit quicker, right? To kind of make that decision. But I was really saying the being in the gap and not calling myself out, uh, the personnel type stuff has been a learning experience on a couple of people, which I've gotten better on. As far as the business stuff, I follow the playbook, right? And like I've been innovative, and I don't think we really failed because our business makes sense. I will say I've been very close, and that I've almost messed up, but I trusted my team and didn't make some calls. I came close to making some calls, like, "Oh, we need to shut this school down," and actually
Hmm.
we didn't. We didn't shut down some schools, and it actually led to business elsewhere.
Wow.
Surprisingly, but it's the only reason why it worked out is because I trusted my team, and they were like, "Man, yeah, I think we should probably give it a little bit more time," and it actually worked out
Interesting.
because I trusted them. My
Yeah.
I felt like we should have shut it down because I was being very logical, and they were like, "Well, let's just wait a little bit," and because it was
Yeah.
a school that wouldn't grow. But that school, you never know who's watching, right? That's why you have to keep that community building mindset and that long term mindset. Like you can't be a fool either. Like if you only got one child in the school, you can't keep it open. But we had a school that we were like barely breaking even on, and like it was like one of our original schools. And come to find out, we went to go prospect this other school, and there was nothing to sell. There was no need to sell, and we just did a demo day there, and we're going to start a program with this brand new school on April 10th because the person that directed that school used to work at the other school and appreciated how much we were a professional at that other school and showed up for those kids, even though it wasn't a big program. You never know who's
Oh,
watching.
that's awesome.
So we could have failed there. And maybe it wasn't necessarily would have been considered a failure, but like we could have missed out on an opportunity and we didn't.
Man.
So
Yeah, it goes to show the importance of building a team that you can trust. And I've been in that position too in building out my teams. And there's actually a really good book. You probably heard of Extreme Ownership
yep.
by Leif Babin and Jocko Willink. And then their follow up to that was The Dichotomy of Leadership. And they talk about how a lot of leaders struggle with deciding when to coach and mentor and then when to actually cut the cord and fire somebody. I know I've struggled with that so many times. But you've talked about traction, EOS, that whole system. How has that helped you building your team? Specifically, the tools that are in EOS. You know, you got the accountability chart, your people analyzer, GWC. I talk a lot about EOS on this podcast. I think it's so important. Every candidate I interact with, I'm referencing Rocket Fuel, Traction, all the tools, along with a couple others. But you said you actually have kind of implemented that. Are you strong? You feel like the team understands it? Maybe educate me a little bit.
We don't necessarily use the tools. It's almost like I use the tools in the background. I use
Yeah,
frameworks, right? I'm like their cliff notes, I would
there
say.
you go.
We don't necessarily use the tools as much, but I'm always dropping the nuggets to them about the things and the kind of the frameworks and the concepts to think about. What we always talk about, and that's why I say the trust piece and the kind of open communication that our team always say, you all are helping us build a business, right? Like you can either clock in or clock out, or you can help us build a business. And if you have ideas and thoughts, right, like the way you help us build this business is that you work yourself into a job, right? And that like helping us to grow and expand is now allowing you to grow in this business. Every person that we hire, we talk about like, what do you think about how would you like to grow within Kidokinetics here? And I've even talked with our founder Terry. Like, I would love to turn our franchise into that of like Chick-fil-A, right? Or like where Chick-fil-A, they take pride in that they have folks that have worked on the line that now are location owners.
Man, yeah, that's one of the hardest parts about getting into a Chick-fil-A at that high level is you have to have spent a lot of time within the system. I love the whole idea of having a development culture, and it's cool. You have a great opportunity to do it with Kidokinetics and your setup. I'm curious about the systems of the franchisor. How has that kind of played into your ability to kind of scale the business? Has there been anything that you kind of had to work through that maybe there was some friction with the franchisor, so I'm open to talking on both sides of it. I think it's important for people to understand the good, but also some of the things that were difficult in being a franchisee under a franchisor, because it's not all
No,
butterflies and rainbows.
no, it's not. And I'm actually I'm the vice president of our franchise advisory council, and so we just started that up.
Nice.
And so I am instantly involved with talking with the franchisor all the time. On a monthly basis, we check in, and we actually just did. I helped lead the group in talking with all our owners and collecting interviews from all the owners of like what's working well, what is not working well, capturing those notes so we can bring that back to the franchise. Or so we're in the middle of doing that. We'll have that readout next month. We have some issues with tech, and like we're actually in the middle of changing that. And but great thing about our franchisor is like they recognize that. Now, well, I wish they move faster. Absolutely, everybody wishes they move faster. There's also resource limitations. There's also people limitations and tech. It takes some time. There's a bunch of different things. I'm a difficult person to talk about with a franchisor, and the reason why is my background. And the reason I say my background as a Marine is we do more with less. That's my
Mm,
mentality. Out of all the branches of service, we are part of the United States Navy. So if you look at the emblem of the Marine Corps, it says United States Marine Corps, Department of the United States Navy. So we get the least amount of money and we do just as much as everybody else. So when you come with that mindset, I understand what the franchisor is doing and I have their expectations. It does not give me the excuse to sit down and cry. I got a business to run.
yep.
Voice my opinion, give solutions, help solve the problem, and then go figure out what you have today. That's all you can do.
A lot of people when they start to struggle, and when I talk to franchise candidates coming in, it's so important to talk to a range of franchisees during validation, because you've got the top performers, you've got middle performers, you've got the bottom performers. Bottom performers are so much more likely to point the finger at the franchisor and play the game, the blame game. But then you got the top franchisees, and they might not seem relatable to the average, brand new person coming into the system. And so it's so important to have a range, because I mean, I've experienced this so much in the multiple brands that I'm with, is I don't always agree with the franchisor's decisions on certain things, but at the end of the day, I signed up for these different franchise brands because I believe in what they can do in helping me achieve my dreams. Now, I will say it does go a lot better when the franchisor is more communicative. I think
Yes.
when you're looking at franchise opportunities, you need to make sure that you work with and I put this in my post the other day that you referenced earlier, make sure you're working with the team that is going to be willing to work with you and treat you with respect so they can hear you out. But you, as the franchisee, have to make sure, and I'm just verbatim of what you just said, you got to make sure that you're solutions oriented, that you speak your piece, you're not just sitting back and letting things happen. If you see problems, speak your mind, but you need to be solutions oriented so you can get back and run this business, because at the end of the day, it's on you.
No, absolutely. And for full transparency, I am to your point in that you know I'm not gonna say I'm the very tippy top, but I'm like that
Yeah.
like top third, right?
Yeah.
Top third, top quarter group, right? I'm definitely top quarter, top third group. And so like for me, things are working well. Could they always be better? Absolutely. I'm always gonna say they could be better. Um, what I always harp on is communication and um, from the very jump. And that's why I went, I felt comfortable going this direction. Like, right. We felt comfortable. My wife and I were like, yes, we're going to go this direction with the franchise because during our discovery day, like I sat down with our CEO, like afterwards. He's the one that took me to the airport. And it wasn't like this, like it wasn't a planned thing. it just happened to be organic that like our flights were later. And so like we went to dinner together and we weren't talking about Kidokinetics. We talked about life and just like
Mm.
growth, and we built a relationship. And so from there, it was that, right? And so like when our third child was born, our founder, Terry, like sent a package of like matching shirts for our kids and stuff, and like a stuffed lovey for our little one, right? So like it wasn't I'm doing all these different things, right? And so like our VP of, kind of success, like has 3 kids and they all match in similar ages to ours. And so like it wasn't as, oh, we're doing this to kind of get you in here. It's this natural organic thing. And so when I speak, right, and I also have this gift, right, like, and I say this, and I don't want to sound narcissistic, like this has been said to me multiple times by multiple people. I have this gift to be able to talk with people, communicate with people, and build a relationship really quickly and convey things that are in difficult situations in a manner that does not make people feel defensive or that they need to fight or anything like that. For the most part, I can. So like I can't get ruffle people's feathers, but like I'm able to talk with a lot of people and like do these different things. So like when I present stuff to people, they're like, "Yep, makes sense. We can do better about that." And so I try to utilize that in my role with the franchise advisory committee to like bring back like, hey, this is what we're hearing. Like, hey y'all, there was a major change here, and it probably could have been a little smoother if you had just. I know you all weren't trying to like scare people, but people tell their own story. So you tell a story before I tell a story. Because if you don't tell me a story, I'm going to tell a story. And my story is
Mm.
always going to be worse because humans, out of survival, we tell a story that's worse than what it actually is. That's how our bodies survive. We always tell a story, for the most part. Most people tell a story that's worse than what it actually is so that they can survive. That's a survival mechanism.
Interesting.
That's how it is.
Yeah. It's important to control the narrative, man. And I can see having just listening to you, it seems that you got a high level of emotional intelligence, which when you're in these conversations and if you're at this leadership role, not just building up your own team, but now as, somebody that's an ambassador for, all the franchisees within a system, you need that. You need that. As we kind of wrap this thing and get into the fourth quarter, man, I'm curious. Were there any things? What were some experiences that you had early on in your life that has maybe curated some of your aspirations and has led you down the path that you are now? Anything that pops out to you?
I mean, early on in life, shoot. Let's see.
Did you know you were going to be on a path like this? Like, is this just so far outside the box? Like, at what point did you see this as a possibility? I mean, as a Marine, as a business owner,
Mm,
you take it as high or as low as you want to go,
I
man.
was always a hard worker.
Okay.
Um, I would say I was always a hard worker in the sense of like, uh, my parents really, really, really pushed me hard. So like, I was an Eagle Scout, but like, I wasn't an Eagle Scout like, oh, like, hey, I was an Eagle Scout at like 16, 17, 18. I was an Eagle Scout at 13, and Boy Scout starts at 11. And so like I was the youngest Eagle Scout in my district for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Um, was captain of multiple teams in high school and like played both in some sports and was also a pharmacy tech in high school. So like, and I played in the band. Like I went to summer school so I could play in the band, not the marching band because I played football, but like played in the band, the Wind Symphony, and I played in the jazz band. Um, so I was always kind of like around everybody and was like this like my mom told me in 8th grade, you better run fast, jump high, crack a book, do something because you're going to school and I ain't paying for it. So they push me in everything, right? Like they push me in
Yeah.
everything, experience everything. And then I was very fortunate enough to go to Naval Academy, was also accepted to West Point and had like a bunch of ROTC scholarships. So I was a solid student. Now, I realized I wasn't a brainiac when I got to the Naval Academy because like I had 3 Rhodes Scholars in my class, and my one like couple of my roommates, one went to Oxford, and the other one went to UPenn to get his master's. Like I was like, man, I'm a hard worker. These dudes are brainiacs.
You got into a pretty nice room. You
Right.
leveled
I got
yourself
into a
into a
nice
pretty
room,
nice room. Yeah.
which I learned, and probably the greatest lesson I think I learned was to be the smartest person in the room, which I will always be the smartest person in the room if I can remember these 3 things. I don't know everything, and be okay with that. Know who knows, be their friend, in like not in a nefarious way, but like be friends with everybody, like and be friendly with everybody, and then communicate with them when you need help from them or the team needs help, and empower them to have them help you and the team.
Hmm.
So if you can like get rid of your ego, find the people that know what's going on, and get out of their way. Like, right? That's how you win at franchising.
Love it.
You're the
What would you?
boss. Go hire the people
Yeah.
that know what they're doing and get out of their way. So
Yeah. Yeah, because you're not buying yourself a job, or at least you shouldn't. We
yeah,
talked about this earlier. You're really trying to build a big business. And if you can find a widget that you can pull passion out of, then the real focus is what can this widget do to help you build your bigger legacy. And it's interesting. I'm excited to see where you're at, 8.5 years from now, when you're at the point of maybe you're rolling so much that you re-up, or you spend it as something even bigger. And I think that's the opportunity that you have within franchising. So this is my last question for you, man. I'm gonna let you get back to your day running these businesses and doing your thing. um, think back to when you were a franchisee candidate before you had picked the brand, and put yourself back in that mindset. What was one of the bigger pieces of advice that you received that you think back on? I was like, man, I'm glad I had that mindset going into the process. I think a lot of these people that are looking at franchise opportunities, there's such a big range, and they just don't know what they don't know. So what was something that helped you out that you're thankful for now?
one was what you actually just said, and because Melissa said that to me, and actually Dave, our CEO, said that to me, and it's in part of the US and all those different things, and email for visiting and kind of all those things. But like, you're not buying yourself a job.
Mm.
You don't want to buy yourself a job, right? You're buying yourself an opportunity to change your life. So when you do that, right, and like the whole story about the problem, like a lot of people are technicians that go and say, I'm gonna do this for myself, go and do, and they get this and they like come disgruntled really quickly, um, is because they don't realize what they're getting into. So from the jump, when I had that understanding that I was buying myself an opportunity to change my life, it made me change, like, because all I knew about franchising was like everybody does, McDonald's, right? Subway, or maybe a Jiffy Lube or something like that, right? These big, box building type things. And, you know, if I had known I could have a blacktop business every time I drive around a parking lot that looks crazy, or like the women's health center that was just completed up the street that had this huge parking lot that was just paved, man, I'm just like, I see these opportunities everywhere. And so that was probably the biggest thing, is like not buying yourself a business. And then really it's just like the end game, the growth opportunities. It's like, do you sell it? Do you empire build? And so like getting into the ecosystem and knowing where you can go, like, and just getting into it, and like you're not trying to build, and like putting those connections, right? Like getting into the ecosystem, knowing what's out there and being open and receptive, and then knowing you're going to just build a business. Those two different things, and trying to put those two things together that fits your family, your life, your family life, and where you're trying to go. If you can master that and be open and do it in a genuine way, which is not a quick money grab with as little work as possible, because you have to be engaged. You have to be involved. You might not be the owner operator like all day, every day, like, spraying the chemicals or coaching or, doing whatever it is, painting the room, but you have to be involved in actually growing the business from the jump and working yourself out of a job,
Amen.
then you'll find the right thing and it'll change your life.
Amen. Yeah, I tell people all the time, candidates that I'm starting to work with now, if you're working in the business or if you're working on the business, you're still working the business. There is a requirement to work the business, whether you're in and you're doing some of the, I loved how you said it, man. The team that you're hiring, these people they're doing the small, the urgent, the things that they need to be a good face for you out in the community. Then you have your leadership, the small to medium, which allows you to focus on the medium to large, which is where you need to be at. Man, shout out, golly, all the resources that you threw down today, man. Melissa Lewis, for one, she's great, and we wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for her. So shout out Melissa Lewis. Shout out Jeb Blunt. Tell me the name of that book one more time.
Fanatical Prospecting.
Love it. And then you already know EOS. You gave a Gap in the Gain shout out earlier. Man, I'm a book dude as well. I wouldn't know anything about anything if it wasn't for books and resources. And man, I love it. You're a product of that for sure. Well, Mr. Calvin, I appreciate you, man. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you for joining the Streetwise stage. If you want to get connected to Calvin Parsons and learn more about his story, man, he's on LinkedIn. I know that for sure. But until next time, stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Hey, if this episode added any value to your life at all, please like it, share it, give me a 5-star review. It's the only way that this show is going to gain traction and help more people achieve their dreams. If you're ready to start your franchise journey, visit streetwisefranchising.com. Let's set up a time to talk. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Until next time, stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.